Hello, dear viewers and students and all kinds of participants. Assalamu alaikum. I would like to welcome you to this online video lecture presentation and hope this will be very much helpful for you. Okay, I'm gonna welcome you here from my home for this presentation, and I hope that you will be with me until I go to the last part of this discussion. So this I'm going to start off. So let's get started. Okay, dear students, as you can see from here, that this lecture has been basically made for honors third year students, Department of English, and under the National University of Bangladesh. And my topic, I'm going to talk about it later. So this is the lecture for honors third year, Introduction to Linguistics. The main paper, Introduction to Linguistics, and I'm Mazhar Haq, Assistant Professor of English, Kumila Victoria Government College. Okay, this is the topic that I will be discussing with you. Well, child language acquisition, one of the major portions and chapters of linguistics. And I will be talking about the introductory, the matters, introductory aspects, and some important stages of child language development and acquisition. So dear students, let's go to the main part of our discussion. Okay, before I jump to the main part, let me show you these pictures. These are actually the images of child language developments. I mean, how language affect children to grow up with their own language. You can see and you can guess how a child is going to be brought up and going to be grown up with a passage of time. And this is just a rough idea that you can get from it. Okay, I'm going to start the introductory session and the very important aspects of child language acquisition. Language development begins from the first day after birth, as you all know. By the age of 5, the child knows most of the system of language, and it continues even after the age of 5. Research indicates babies listen to their mother's voice during the last few months of pregnancy. Every child acquires a language as a native language with equal ease. How does the child learn his or her first language well in such a short time? And what is the course of language learning? Developmental psychologists have attempted to answer these questions over the past 30 years, also provided us with considerable insight into how and why of the first language acquisition takes place. And this has been quoted from Kiss, 1992, his research paper. So I strongly advise you to give quotation and reference of different prominent linguists for better presentation of your answers. Let's move forward and go to the next slide. Okay, the introduction is being continued here. Languages are required in the predictable stages as the behavior develops. They do differ in their concept and rate of development, but the chronology seems to remain constant. This is another reference taken from Kiss, 1992, his research. Acquiring language is learning a game. One must learn the rules of the game. Children also learn to improve and enhance their behavior for a good member of a society. So these are the introductory, discussion that will take you to my main discussion. So dear students, let us go to the next slide. Okay, we need to know the historical overview of child language acquisition or child language development. The historical overview tells us that there are three main aspects, or there are three main sources of child language development that took place in the history of linguistics. First one is diary studies, which started at 1877 until 1930. Language development is studied through diary studies by recording the speech of a child. Parents daily record the speech and maintain a diary. Number 2, large simple studies, which took place in 1930 and ended in 1957. Instead of collecting data of a single child, they collect data from a large number of children at a certain stage. So this is the second, historical overview of child language acquisition. And the last one is linguistic studies, which actually started from 1957 and still going on. Instead of focusing just at the utterance of a child, they try to understand the rules behind it. So these are the historical perspective and overview of child language acquisition, which actually going on. It's a never-ending process. It is still going on and on. So dear students, let us go to the next slide and go forward. Okay, what are the basic requirements for child language acquisitions? These are some quotations. Stork and Widdowson, in their thesis 1974, point out two important factors involved in language acquisition. Firstly, an innate human potential for the acquisition of a language. And secondly, a linguistic environment for a child stimulated by linguistic input. So these are the basic requirements which really help children to maintain and actually grow up their own languages, especially L1, that is first language. And with this, the children develops their L2, that is second language. Okay, moving on. Okay, another image for you. And this image actually shows you how child develops through languages throughout the whole years. Actually, language and child development are very much closely linked together. And as you can see from here, child helps children to grow up mentally and physically. Okay. This is another very important slide or image of development milestones that took place, and that is very common to all the students and all the children right after their birth. You can see that there are different bubbles shown here. You can read them. 3 months, cooing and gargling. When the child actually moves to 3 months, he started cooing and gargling. At 6 months, babbling starts. 18 months, knows 5 to 40 words. 12 months, first words. And 3 years, 2 years, 150 to 300 words, 2 to 3 words sentence. 3 years, 900 to 1,000 words. They start asking short questions. In 5 years, indefinite letters, create longer sentences. And when they reach in 4 years, 2,000 words, 5 plus word sentence, that is in one sentence, they can use 5 words. So you have to understand this. So these are the different word, developmental milestones that take place in the children after the taking birth, Okay, it's a simple chart. The main stages of child language acquisition, which is your main concern and main focus. And you can see from here, there are 4 stages, as you all know. First one is pre-linguistic period, which actually takes place just after the birth and goes to until 10 months. Number 2, holophrastic period, which is actually called one-word stage. It starts 12 months and lasts for 1 year and a half, that is 18 months. Number 3, the telegraphic period, 2 to 3 years. And the last period, the complex period, which goes from 3 years to 5 years. So this is a very important chart or table that shows you at first stage what actually happens in the child language development. Let us go to the next slide. Okay, just a simple phenomenal picture. Let us start pre-linguistic period. Okay, what actually happens in pre-linguistic period? Pre-linguistic period actually happens from the birth to 10 months. It's just after the baby is born till 10 months of his or her age. So from the moment of a birth, the child discriminates speech from other sounds, start discovering phonemes. At 1 month, start crying or producing sounds in order to convey several information like hunger cry, angry cry, pain cry. Cooing starts in response to pleasure. This is a universal stage. At 6 months, babbling stage, producing syllables like ba, ba, ba. They start producing syllables. And from 9 to 10 months, start using intonation patterns, and also rephrase babbles that seems as if they are words For example, baba, mama, dada, etc. The words which they pronounce quite easily. So this is the prelingual linguistic period, which actually is the first stage of child language development. Okay, dear students, let's go to the next slide. Okay, now the next one is holophrastic stage, which is actually called one word stage. This word child start pronouncing one word sentence produce. Look at that example, milk. It that she or he wants to milk mean she or he wants milk. Next slide. Okay, the holophrastic period, 12 months to 1 year and a half. 12 months single word phrase stage, communication done with single words in order to convey simple message. Example, a word teda could mean I want my teddy, because a baby cannot pronounce the word teddy, so she pronounces or he pronounces teda. Here is my teddy. Where is my teddy? Naming person, objects and place like cookie, dog, etc. Vocabulary moved to 30 words at this stage. Improved pronunciation, says no very meaningfully, start understanding what is being said, like come here, stop it, etc. It's a very important part of, actually all the stages are equally important, but this is really important because the baby starts pronouncing one word sentence with which he or she can actually express her own feelings or his own feelings. Okay, the next stage is telegraphic stage. This is actually called two-word stage, daddy fall, because they cannot maintain a grammar. The little grammar they do have would like to be used in the sentence, small two-word sentences. Okay, let's go deeper into the discussion. Okay, the telegraphic period continues from 2 years to 3 years, that is just after the birth, from the 2 to 3 years. 2 years, two-word phrase stage, child uses minimum words to convey meaning of a whole sentence, lack of function words in communication, but recites familiar nursery rhymes. 30 months, that is more than 2 years, start acquiring roots of syntax, that is the word formation, and demonstrating semantic relationships or relations with two words. For example, the baby starts saying mommy sit, mama sit, like agent plus action, like papa car, only agent plus object, eat mango, agent plus object, a little bit of grammar, action plus location, go park, object plus location, teddy floor. That is, this telegraphic period starts actually thinking or reshaping the word structures from 2 years to 3 years. Actually, all the stages are equally important for the child, for the children to actually develop his or her mother tongue, or if he or she borns in an English language country, then second language. It actually depends where a child is born. If a child is born in a country, his first language would be that language which is produced and used by many. For example, if a child is born in England, in an English-speaking country, his or her first language would be English, no doubt about it. Okay, let us go to the next slide. The complex period, things getting more and more complex. That is, complex doesn't mean intricate. Complex means here more language patterns, syntax, use of intonation, forms are being used at this stage. Let's go see. Okay, the complex period goes from 3 to 5 years. By 5 years, acquisition becomes slow, but vocabulary continues to grow. Developing morphology, start using functional words. Overgeneralization of rules, the child applies is to the word like foods, mans, something like that. Developing syntax, start forming complex sentences like they can use forming WH questions like what, where, who, when, etc. Forming negative sentences like I wasn't eating pizza. So they have started using negative sentences. You can use negative words in grammar. Developing semantics, overextend the meaning of a word on the basis of shape and size. Example, use ball to refer all around things like an apple, an egg, or a grape, or any object they find quite easy to say or quite easy to get at their hands, something like this. So this is also a very important stage, almost the last stage of child language development. That is why it's called complex period, because at this stage, the child can think of using words with grammar, syntax, and vocabs. All these things actually combine together in his mind to utter a perfect sentence, though it's not a very important part of his age to utter long sentences, but somehow they can manage to speak a bit grammatical sense of sentences. Okay, let us go to the next slide. Okay, conclusion. Actually, we have already discussed the 4 stages, which are very important for child language acquisition or child language development. Now I'm going to conclude this session. There is no clear-cut answer as to how language acquisition takes place. These are only some actually hypotheses. There is no real fact behind this. Language acquisition tend to run parallel to the physical development, though there is no correlation between these two. Generally, babbling occurs around the time when baby begin to sit up. They utter single word just before they start to walk. Grammar becomes complex when hands and fingers coordination develops. So this is the end of my session, dear students. Hope it helps. And I hope you have got very important information for this answer. And with this, I'm going to conclude my session. Thank you very much. And if you have any query, don't hesitate to email me, mazhar.talk@gmail.com. So with this, I'm going to conclude our session. Thank you very much. See you again another day.